Battle through the firmament. Great world. Chapter 450. Exposing all of his ultimate techniques. Be careful, this guy is too strong. Mahyuyang's eyes were full of vigilance. The heavenly net sword was already in his hand, and he reminded Lindao in a low voice. Even with Lindao's speed, he was still discovered by Kang Feng. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the latter's speed was. Xiaoyan and the others had grave expressions on their faces. They nodded and did not speak when they heard this. After Kang Feng eliminated Xuan Qingyi in an instant just now, everyone made a prompt decision and gave up on their original plan. They decided to join hands to deal with Kang Feng. If they were to be defeated by the latter one by one, it was likely that they would only end up losing. Crack! The sound of space shattering was transmitted from a short distance away. Kiara's pretty face appeared pale as she appeared. She looked gratefully at Xiaoyan and the rest. She merely hesitated for a moment before her body moved and arrived beside Xiaoyan and the rest. Her face instantly turned red when she saw the gazes of these people. Immediately, her expression became firm as she looked at Kang Feng. Seeing this, Kang Feng's face turned red. The black silhouette in his eyes moved and smiled coldly. Immediately after, he turned his head and looked at a place not far away from him. He smiled faintly and said, "They're all here." As soon as his voice faded, two flowing lights rushed over and steadily stopped beside Xiaoyan and the other three. They were Zhou Buyi and Zhou Exingyu, who had left earlier. "You also have a sense of crisis." Mahyuyang glanced at Zhou Buyi indifferently. He was not the least bit surprised by the latter's arrival. "What else can I do?" Waiting to be eliminated. Zhou Buyi's tone was calm, but his eyes were fixed on Kang Feng. He could feel a strong pressure coming from Kang Feng's body. Good, good, good. Seeing that everyone had gathered, Kang Feng suddenly burst into a wild laughter. His black hair was fluttering in the wind, and the black key in his eyes was circulating crazily. He threw his head back and laughed, causing the surrounding air to crack. "Join forces. Do you think we don't have anyone?" Shi Kanghai sneered. His voice echoed like thunder. In a few blinks, he appeared beside Kang Feng, facing so many people. He felt a trace of wild joy in his heart. Shang Hao and Shang Shaoshan stepped forward with gloomy expressions. Although both of them had a conflict with Kang Feng's sudden increase in strength, under the current circumstances, they could only attack. "What do you have in mind?" The origin key around Zhou Buyi's body vibrated, emitting a powerful key. He turned to Mahyuyang and asked. On Xiaoyan's side, Mahyuyang was obviously the leader of the group. Among them, only he and Mahyuyang had the same strength. "They're just a bunch of ants." Before Mahyuyang could say anything, Kang Feng shouted from afar. He didn't care about Shang Hao and the other two. He rushed towards the group of people with an imposing manner, as if he was going to break the blue sky. "Let's follow the previous plan. Lindao, bring Xiaoyan and the others to deal with Shang Hao and the other two. Zhou Buyi, you and I will work together to deal with Kang Feng." At this critical moment, Mahyuyang suddenly cried out. At the same time, his body had already rushed forward. The heavenly net sword in his hand instantly danced with tens of thousands of long arcs. There was a green lotus on each of the long arcs. Each lotus was budding and seemed to contain an endless amount of power. Green lotus sword truth. This guy actually succeeded in cultivating it. Zhou Buyi's expression turned slightly serious. He had secretly asked around about Mahyuyang's trump card. Green Lotus Sword Dao was the monic skill that the great elder of Yunlo Academy had personally bestowed upon Mahyuyang. Its grade was extremely high, and it had already reached the mid-grade monic arts. Great Zhou Heavenly Dao Seal. Zhou Buyi's movements weren't slow at all. His body was like a dragon, and his joints were cracking. As he flipped his 10 fingers, the origin key around his body shot up into the sky. In the blink of an eye, a huge square seal had formed above his head. The huge seal was a dark gray color, and it was mysterious and unpredictable. It was enough to suppress all 4 directions. It was the supreme cultivation technique of the Zhou clan, the monic arts that was derived from the great Zhou evolution art. Swoosh! The moment the two of them moved, Lindao's sword-shaped eyebrows stood straight, and the air under his feet shattered. He pointed his finger at the sky, and with a slight sway of his body, he had already arrived in front of Shang Hao. The Imperial Dragon Point Blue Spear transformed into an azure dragon, and the tip of the spear let out a wild roar. It pierced through the space, and pierced towards Shang Hao's chest. Although Zhu Tianho's speed was far slower than Lindao's, he was still not satisfied. A flame pattern appeared between his brows. The fire source in the air seemed to have surrendered to an emperor. It formed a flaming bridge in the air, and the flames in his hand roared. It was as if he was holding two fire dragons, and he attacked Shi Kanghai. Xiaoyan's eyes sparkled. He did not attack directly like Lindao and Zhu Tianho. His glabella slightly bulged, and a majestic soul force spread out, following Lindao's attack towards Shang Hao. Such a chaotic scene, a soul attack that was caught off guard, was obviously much stronger than the monic skill. Zhou Exingyu, who was standing aside, hesitated for a moment. Starlight surged around her like a shooting star as she rushed towards Shang Shaoshan. Along the way, the starlight shattered and the sky was filled with multicolored light. It was the monic skill of the Great Circulatory Cycle Revolution. It was called the Great Circulatory Cycle Stellar Splitter. It was the only monic skill among the 10 monic skill that needed to absorb starlight to cultivate, and it was ranked at the peak of the low-grade monic arts. Kiara was standing at the side. When she saw Xiaoyan's eyes were closed and not moving at all, a bright light flashed in her eyes. She had already understood something. Immediately, a gray-colored origin key lingered around her body. Her body had already disappeared from where she was standing. Thousand-blade fierce light. The great flame explosion. 9 breaks of surging waves. Facing Lindao and the other two men's aggressive attacks, Shang Hao and the other two men were shocked. All of them unleashed their monic skill, which was used by Shang Hao and Shang Shaoshan. It was the ultimate skill of Shang Clan, and Shi Kanghai. As the son of the master of Surging Waves Prefecture, he naturally had an extraordinary skill as well. As his palms struck out, endless waves of water poured down from the 9 heavens. It blocked Zhu Tianho's fiery bridge and welcomed the roaring fire dragon. Outside the profound crystal realm, everyone was watching the battle in the inner world with nervous expressions. No one would have thought that the final battle would break out so quickly. With the help of the 10 times slower time in the inner world, everyone could clearly see their attacks and techniques. At the same time, it also shocked everyone. 2 young men from the Zhou clan and 2 young men from the Shang clan. They're worthy of being called the disciples of the major families. They're able to master the ultimate techniques of their families so well. An expert saw through the monic skill that these people were using with a single glance, and exclaimed in amazement. Not bad, even though they're able to use the monic skill in a short period of time. There are still flaws, but it's already very difficult for someone at the monic emperor to have such strength. The experts by the side sighed with emotion. With their eyesight, they were naturally able to see the flaws in their attacks. What is Xiaoyan doing? Su Jiang's eyes were fixed on the inner world. At this critical moment when Ma Huyang and Zhou Buyi were fighting Kang Feng together, Xiaoyan's actions had turned into countless questions in his mind. Has Kang Feng gone mad? Xing Chanyu was also stunned. He knew Kang Feng's strength very well. Although he was undeniably strong, it was still not enough to fight with Ma Huyang and Zhou Buyi, the 2 strongest people in the other academies. Rumble. The grayish-black large seal, which was wrapped by thousands of long arcs, shot towards Kang Feng. Countless budding green lotuses slowly rotated around the large seal. They were filled with a different kind of spirituality and had a pleasing beauty. However, under the beauty, it was a terrifying power that shook one's soul. Fortunately, I have chosen this strongest body. This attack should be able to withstand it. Kang Feng rushed over without slowing down. When he saw the joint attack of Zhou Buyi and Ma Huyang, he suddenly muttered to himself and shouted. Black clear ki surged around his body and shattered the surrounding space. The sound of cracking could be heard without an end. Bursting stream burial. Endless origin kiss surged out from the space and gathered on Kang Feng's right fist. They seemed to have transformed into layers of quicksand that shook the heavens and the earth. They swept down and struck the huge seal with an unstoppable force. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.